All right, so this is the overarching summary for the houses, starting with this is house one. House one is referred to as the Lagna, and the ruler of that first house is the Lagna Lord. So the first house is both what's called a Kona and a Kendra. And that means that it functions both as a trinal house, which are very lucky and auspicious and positive, and also a kendra, which are more cornerstones of life, such as home, spouse, and career. And the first house shows what is most important to a person, and that from which they gain their sense of self. It represents birth, early childhood. This, of course, is in a natal chart. In a Navamsa chart, it would represent the things other than birth and early childhood, which are sense of self, willpower, strength of will, self-confidence, personal power. That which is most important to a person is very much shown by the first house and the first lord. More on that later. Appearance, physical appearance is very much shown by the first lord. Dharma or life purpose, fame, either within that person's field, or it can be at a regional, local level, or you can be famous like throughout your entire state or throughout the country, or even in rare instances, some people are globally famous. So a person's character can be seen from the first house, which is funny because obviously some people have a lot of fame, don't have a lot of character. Their tendencies and disposition, overall prosperity and abundance in life, health, strength of will, self-esteem, happiness, and again, early childhood and start in life in natal charts only. So the first house is considered the most personal part of the horoscope. And it's the most important. The first lord and the first house really determine the ability someone has to leverage the karmic power and potency that's shown and promised in their chart. And so the first house also reveals a person's level of confidence and in integrated people's self-love. And so it sort of shows mastery of self to some degree. The first house is both a Kendra and a Kona house, and so it's the most auspicious of all houses in a certain way, although it's not the most powerful. That would be the ninth lord. But it is the most auspicious in that it is the only lord and house that functions as both a Kendra and a Kona. So the ruler is always considered a functional benefic. So for those planets that rule multiple houses, multiple signs, and therefore multiple houses, even if one of the signs is bad, for example, with Taurus rising, Venus rules both the first house, which is of course good here, and the sixth house, which is considered negative. Being owner of the first house always trumps and overrules that the planet also rules a bad house. This applies also with Aquarius ascendants, where Saturn is both the first lord and the 12th lord, and the 12th lord is considered devastating and negative. But the Saturn itself will be considered a benefic, and it will turn that quality of the 12th house positive if the Saturn, for example, is very strong. So the first lord is all important because a weak and afflicted first lord and first house can damage an otherwise powerful chart. It sort of shows the ceiling for your chart to a certain degree. Now, with self-effort, people can work on their self-confidence, work on healing their trauma, work on just improving their sense of self and self-confidence, and that can cause their that can help to improve the state of their chart, as can doing mantras, doing yoga or fire rituals, or getting Vedic gemstones, which will be covered in a different class. So, or in a different class module. So the first lord is just all important. It's really hard to overstate how important it is to the horoscope. In fact, I'd say it's impossible, basically. The condition of the first lord in particular, but also the first house itself. If the first house has terrible malefics in it that are just absolutely devastating, then that can cause real problems for that person with sense of confidence and self-esteem overall. They're very often people who also are victimized in some way by the negative malefic force that's shown there in that first house. Or much the same thing applies if for some reason the first lord is devastated. For example, if Saturn is first lord of Aquarius and then it's posited in Aries and then becomes fallen, that can show someone who may, for example, have had a very authoritarian parent who was very aggressive and violated their boundaries, perhaps in some kind of secretive way, because of the 12th house is one of the hidden houses along with the 8th, then that person's chart will be very difficult to take full advantage of the rest of it. Even if it had, like, say, Jupiter exalted in Cancer, it might be difficult for that person to experience the full benefits of that incredible Jupiter, Lord of the 2nd and 11th for the same chart that's there in Cancer and exalted. So you really need to look at the character of the first lord and the power of the first house, because the opposite is also true. If your first lord is, if you're a Leo ascendant and you have Sun, Lord of the First, in the 9th house of Aries where it's exalted, you can be certain that this person has maximum confidence and probably also a great relationship with their father, because both the Sun and the 9th house indicate father, and that person's father probably really lifted them up and gave them a good sense of self. So yeah, the first lord is the most important planet in the chart in many, many ways. A person's ability to easily tap into their chart's full power is almost exclusively determined by the power of the first house and the condition and power of the first lord. Hard to overstate. First house gives you, the setup of the entirety of the chart. You know which planets are considered functional malefics based on house rulership, such as ruling the 8th house, for example. Which malefic planets are functional benefics. Again, going back to that example of the Aquarius rising, Saturn is a functional malefic, but if it rules, or is a inherent malefic rather, but if it rules the first house, it becomes a functional benefic. And so then Saturn becomes a positive force in that person's life. Likewise, you can have a Jupiter, which is a natural benefic. For a Taurus rising, it rules the 8th and 11th house, and then it becomes a functional malefic. So all of these things need to be considered, and that is all based on the Lagna, the sign that was rising on the horizon at the moment that a person took their first breath. And so that is the first house, many more to come. And just to continue, forgot to say this. If you're interested, I will be teaching astrology classes probably sometime in late October or early November of 2023. And then I am doing astrology readings through elite for natal charts, which is the first 40 years of life, and Navamsa, the last 40 years of life. And I am doing that at least through the end of October 2023. At some point, I'll be switching into working for a company. And at that point, I'll be doing far fewer and maybe no readings whatsoever, except for returning clients. So if you're interested, now's the time to book. Thank you and have a great day. Bye.